Day, and it is David Darnell Day. That is what it is today.
It is. That's a national. It's nationally recognized. This is the day. January 24th is when we recognize and celebrate everyone whose name is David Darnell.
All right. Well, at least we were fortunate to have one David Darnell here, the David Darnell, in my estimation. And it's better than having a Let's Go Brandon Day every day, because let's face it, just about every day is Let's Go Brandon.
Well, I'll tell you what, if your name is David Darnell and you want to you want to rank, if you have yourself a website with your name on, you want to rank on Google, it's very difficult, because David Darnell is also the name of the former CEO of Bank of America.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, then, or are you just sort of, this is your incognito, your alter ego, and you get to be this guy that, pretends to be doing something that has nothing to do with banking. Of course, he'd probably trying to debank you anyway, right? I mean, that's.
Well, you're going to have to ask yourself the question from here on out: have you ever seen David Darnell and David Darnell in the same room together?
Yeah, that's right. No one has. It's like one of those Hallmark movie things where they have the same person and they're twins, or not Hallmark, but it's where they have the twins, and one's a British royal, and the other one switches with the one who's just like a regular American. And
Yeah, I see the Hallmark Channel comes up on your streaming service as well.
Yeah, it's actually moving wallpaper in my household, because that's what it's on. It's on pretty constantly. I have to fight to get maybe a sporting event on every once in a while, but sometimes I just give in and watch what I want to watch later in the evening once everybody's cashed in their chips. But speaking of,
you following the Blazers at all?
Last few days I've kind of haven't been able to watch what's going on, but they've struggled. They lost some games, and
yeah, big losing streak yesterday though. That was 74-74 at the half.
Wow, I got to watch the highlights for that.
Yeah, so they won 147 to something less. I forget what was it. Now I forget who they played. Not Pelicans. I forget who they played.
They got to spread some of that scoring out on other days, because it sounds like they had an explosion. Yeah,
they really do. They really do. So Damian Lillard, I think, is now either sixth or seventh highest 3-point shooter in the NBA. So he's on his way up. Probably, if he keeps playing, will become a record holder. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. Of all time, you mean, not just for the year, but of all time. He's probably pretty close to a leader in the NBA for this year. So, well, that's great. I mean, we got to have some positive news out of Portland. We're going to have some not so positive news out of Portland tonight, I'm sorry to say to all of you.
Here's my shocked face.
I know. But let's start with a place that's trying to out Portland. It is Atlanta. They, after apparently a member of Antifa decided to shoot, I believe it was a rifle at a police officer. Somehow the people of Antifa are very angry and upset that after he did that and actually struck a police officer, that they turned around and shot him to death. And so they're really upset about that. So they decided to respond to that by launching a domestic terrorist attack. That is what they're being charged with, by the way. Several of these people.
Good.
And now something that I've never seen happen here in the Portland metro area is they're actually digging into the backgrounds of these people, and they're finding out that Atlanta is not Portland based on how the police have reacted. But this very interesting article that's in the New York Post by Andy No, the intrepid reporter who covers Antifa, and Antifa has been trying to kill him for several years. And I'm not exaggerating at all. That's what they've been trying to do. They did try to do it once and almost did. Yeah. And but these are hundreds of Antifa activists attacked Saturday evening in the 5 Points neighborhood in downtown Atlanta, and did tremendous damage to the downtown. And the police swooped in and arrested them. It turns out that they were also protesting a future Atlanta public safety training center, which keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that in the Oregon context, and you can compare it and contrast. But this training site for law enforcement and first responders, Antifa claims they're protecting a forest from the police center, which is very interesting. And but several of them have been identified, and that's the thing I haven't seen done. We don't really learn.
A forest? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Protecting a forest. Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's some mention of like native lands and whatever.
Yeah.
But the chant they had in the streets is, "If you build it, we will burn it."
Yeah.
Remember how they used to accuse the police of committing arson? Now Antifa just says, "No, it's us," and they set a police cruiser on fire, which is pseudo Portland-esque. They used an explosive to do it, and they live streamed the video so they could all be caught on video committing acts of domestic terrorism. But it turns out they've identified some of these people, and these are the professional leftist agitator types, many of whom are actually not from Atlanta or from Georgia.
Are they from Portland?
It's none of them show as one is from Spokane, but the rest, and they're all sweethearts. You have to see these pictures, real sweethearts, and they look like that they were rejected by one of the meth tent encampments in Portland, and then decided to go out to Atlanta and riot.
They were kicked off the island of misfit toys.
Exactly. Yes. And so one of them, like I said, is from Spokane. So they identified Francis Carroll, 22, of Maine. And when he's not busy rioting in Atlanta, he is the son of a yacht sailing multimillionaire family and hails from a wealthy Maine city of Kennebunkport, which is, of course, famous for where the home to former President George W. Bush. And I think it was H.W. Bush, actually. Both at one point. Yeah. And he lived in his parents' mansion before going to Atlanta and was among 6 people arrested and charged with domestic terrorism, aggravated assault, and other crimes on December 13th, following a string of property attacks in the area, a carjacking, and assaults on officers. They were all bailed out. All these people that were bailed out by activists who crowdfunded their legal defense using Twitter. The next one is an interesting person, Madeline Henry, quote, Henry Fiola, 22, of Spokane, Washington. As you can imagine, some sort of gender fluidity happening. Fiola is a trans non-binary activist and 2022 alum of Oberlin College, where she studied archaeological studies with a focus on decolonization. Boy, that degree is going to get you so many great jobs, like with Antifa. Oh, wait a second. But she is from a wealthy Portland, Oregon suburb of Happy Valley before relocating to Spokane.
Get out of here.
You were on to something there, David.
Get out of here.
I know. She authored a February 2022 blog post in the American Scientist titled, "It's Time to Stop Gatekeeping Medical Transition." So she's promoting medical transition.
Sexual mutilization.
Yes. And using chemicals to modify your body to something else. And the next one, Emily Catherine Murphy, 37, of Grosse Isle, Michigan. She's a middle-class vegan activist who previously served as the at-large chair of the Chicago chapter of Al Gore's Climate Reality Project before becoming further radicalized into eco-ideology. She says, "I have been a vegan 5.5 years now, and no matter how much explaining I do, my own family still doesn't fully understand what being vegan means." She complained in a blog post. Rough line.
Means you're unhealthy.
Ivan James Ferguson, 33, of Henderson, Nevada. Ferguson is a 23-year-old award-winning, classically trained clarinetist from Henderson, Nevada, who studied at the prestigious San Francisco Conservatory of Music. Doesn't everybody get to study there? Before becoming radicalized, Ferguson regularly performed classical concerts in California and Nevada. He doesn't have time for that anymore. He's now been charged with felony domestic terrorism, felony interference with government property, felony first-degree arson, felony second-degree criminal damage, riot, unlawful assembly, willing obstruction of law enforcement officer, and pedestrian and roadway. There was an emergency press conference held in Atlanta following the riot by the Atlanta mayor, revealed a shocking discovery that some of them were found with explosives on them. You heard that correctly. Explosives.
Wow.
Georgia Bureau of Investigation, they have one actually. Is there an Oregon Bureau of Investigation? I don't think so, because we don't investigate.
Well, yeah. Well, who from Portland would think that the cops would arrest these people? Number one, and number two, that they would be charged with serious crimes. I mean,
I know that guy's got.
If you're in Portland, yeah. I mean, police don't do that. DAs don't do that. I mean, how barbarian.
That's what I meant. Compare and contrast. The militant group continued to occupy the area. Heeded the call shared on anarchist sites for comrades to defend the Atlanta forest. I know. This first apparently occurred on May 2022, where the police were met by Molotov cocktails, which, by the way, could burn you to death. Mm-hmm. And then they list some other people, and they're all from like Barnard College before working at Reuters and CNN. Teresa Yu Shen. Who knew? So many of them identify as journalists, which is hilarious. They're getting arrested now. Yeah. Abigail Elizabeth Shapyak of Minneapolis, former Justice Department intern, graduated from American University. The finest our nation has to offer. Another violinist, daughter of a former provost and dean of faculty at Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin, Madeline Matthias Gunther Kodat. So this is starting to, I see a pattern here. This is what we've called in the past the uprising of the overprivileged, and or as Andy No refers to them, spoiled children of privilege trying to burn Atlanta down, and they're going to face justice.
Yeah, well, if you don't have to earn a living, I guess you can just fly around burning cities down until you get to a city like Atlanta, who will actually arrest you and prosecute you. And I'm sure that's just a real shock for them, because we know that some of these same people probably flew regularly to Portland, Seattle, to Los Angeles, to San Jose, and did the very same thing. We saw that.
Well, let's switch gears to Portland now. We'll do number 4 on our list there because it fits. It flows into it perfectly here. Turns out that the rather famous or once famous Nike store that was hailed for being a breakthrough of shining light investment into a struggling neighborhood on MLK Street in Portland is closing permanently, according to this. And
a little bit too much shrinkage, or
nearly 300 thefts had occurred, and they are not allowed to do anything about it. No one gets arrested or prosecuted for anything. And so it
just do it, baby.
Yeah, it may be closing permanently. It's still up in the air, but I suppose you can always reopen. But why? So that you can have 300 more thefts, I guess.
Yeah. Shoes are not supposed to walk out the door by themselves.
No, that's the one feature of shoes that they have not quite yet designed into them, is the ability to walk themselves out the door. But apparently innovators in Portland have come up with a way to apply the 5-finger discount. And it's about a theft a day is what they were experiencing. And, those shoes can be like $200, $300, $400.
Yeah.
It's also closing its well-known Seattle store on Pike Street, and due to the same thing, increased crime. The store was hit severely by anarchist rioters, Antifa, in 2021, and at the same time that they smashed up a boys and girls club nearby, and of course a police station. So this is what Portland is doing. This is really self-inflicted now at this point, because thieves are going to thieve, Antifas are going to Antifa, but what is law enforcement going to do? And yeah, no, you can't run a business like that. It's not possible.
Sounds to me, if I were chief of police in Portland, I'd probably do some poaching on the Atlanta Police Department. You know who else I'd poach from? I'd poach from Charlotte, North Carolina Police Department, because I spent quite a bit of time with those people when I was there for the 2020 convention, as it were. And they didn't do well with any of that stuff either.
Well, we also have to do something else besides poach police officers. We got a couple other things. We've got Mike Schmidt, the district attorney in Multnomah County, who won't prosecute people, who's reimagined public safety virtually out of existence at this point, has decided he's running for a second 4-year term. He announced that to Willamette Week. Funny, there's a picture in this article that you should go look at. It's a picture of him wearing a yellow "Stop the Violence" shirt, which is ironic, you know. It's like Hitler standing up and wearing a "Stop the concentration camps," you know.
Yeah.
T-shirt, like, okay, got it.
Viva Israel, or yeah, no kidding.
He's standing in this picture right next to Ellen Rosenblum, the Attorney General, who seems to not know that there's no law enforcement actually happening now in Multnomah County. And it's also interesting that the announcement was sent to Willamette Week, owned by Ellen Rosenblum's husband. It's nice to have a newspaper that does this for you, but we got to figure out what to do about Mr. Schmidt. He not only mustn't be reelected, but I'm not sure we should wait to see how much longer he even hangs around. He may need to be shown the door politically, and
he may be the single most person responsible for violence in Portland, given the fact that he didn't prosecute all of the violent offenders that were arrested.
Yeah, no, that's exactly
continuously. They were arrested nearly weekly.
Yeah, and in a related story, fascinating. We actually, I'm trying to find the link to it because I don't know exactly where I put it, but turns out that the academy here in Oregon that is set up to train police, they have a massive backlog. So even though Portland is actually trying to get some police trained up, they can't do it. Why? Well, it's because the government is in the way. It's just they won't sufficiently fund and resource the place to train the police. So when you want to know where these guys really come down on all of this, that's where they come down. They're making sure that it's almost impossible to restore even the levels of police that we had prior to the precipitous loss of police officers when they engaged in the ridiculous defunding of police. And so it's like a cluster of stories that when you hear them all in one sequence, you're like, aha, you know, how could anybody hear those stories and not realize that in fact they're related?
That's the mystery of the ages to me, Kevin, how the citizen of Portland who knows this going on, sees this is going on, sometimes, you know, close to their neighborhood, does not translate that through their votes for different policy. I just don't know. I don't know how it works.
Well, so they've actually been having some success in Portland and other places recruiting police officers who want to come step up and become officers there, which is a tough job. You know, the politicians don't have your back, but now there is actually some more funding for this. They have 46 new recruits that have yet to begin any training whatsoever because they're just sitting there waiting. And I'm dumbfounded that, you know, this should be the top headline if you're concerned about what's going on with crime, along with the fact that the DA is running again. But I had to dig for these headlines. It was hard to find. Here's another one. Oregon State Hospital tossed out a schizophrenic man with a history of violence. out of the state hospital, saying that he no longer needs to be hospitalized. Unfortunately, the county that he hails from severely disagrees. So 19 months ago, a man approached a parked car in downtown Beaverton. He was holding a homemade spear, a metal rod with a knife crudely bolted on the end. A woman sat inside a Subaru Forester. Terrified, she called her husband as the attacker banged the rod against the glass, shattering the driver's side mirror. When the police arrived, they recognized the alleged assailant. His name is Pisiat Thuin, which seems like a misspelling. But he's been arrested previously 55 times. Trespassing, threats, theft, and this time he was charged with a felony unlawful use of a weapon. For the intervening year and a half until now, Thuin, 50, was locked in Oregon State Hospital, forcibly medicated with powerful antipsychotic drugs in the hope that he could be restored to competency and face a jury, because he can't face trial if he's not competent to face trial under Oregon law. But on October 25th, Mr. Thuin was thrown out of the state hospital. Doctors said he no longer needs to be hospitalized. But apparently, the county he's returning to, Washington County, strongly disagrees. And thanks to a judicial order in August that cut down the hospital's waiting list, the county can no longer send him back, even if he is out there engaging in more criminal activity. The guy himself is actually refusing mental health care, which, he was forcibly medicated. But he told the county he doesn't believe he's sick and does not want further treatment. And without he won't get it.
That's not going to end well.
No, and if you think about it, this is only one story. So we know to greater and lesser degrees this is actually occurring. I know of a story that was described. It was when I was in Lane County recently. I got to listen to the sheriff, and we hope to have him on actually our program at some point. The sheriff for Lane County said that there was a guy who was threatening some utility workers. The utility workers reported him. They tracked the guy down to the basement of a multi-story dwelling, the top floor of which, the upper floors were physically immobile elderly people. And the guy was living in the basement. He started firing his rifle at the sheriff's personnel from below the building. And he was firing at them. Somehow nobody got injured. They managed to subdue the guy, capture him, arrest him, charge him. But because he was judgmentally ill, he was sent off to the Oregon State Hospital. Hadn't faced trial. Then they did this whole thing where they just started cutting back on the people, and they released him. He's back out. And this guy is clearly a murderous, mentally ill person. And our state's solution is to send them back out into the general population. And we wonder why there's all these criminal issues going on. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's almost like how do you cause chaos within a society? Okay, well, these are 10 easy steps.
We've got them all down. By the way, it was revealed last week that Oregon actually ranks the worst in the country for drug problems. That comes as no surprise to anybody watching this program. But they look the National Drug Helpline did a report, looked at all 50 states, gave them scores on how they ranked in a number of categories, including overdose rates, individual drug use, addiction rates, and the number of people aged 12 plus who used drugs in the past year. According to the report, using statistics from the National Center for Health Statistics and the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, among other sources, Oregon ranked worst in the country. And they went. This article goes into some details about this, and yet this is also the state that famously passed Measure 110, which we've been told just needs more time and more money to work. The Secretary of State did an audit that was revealed last week, and here's what the title of the audit was. It said, "Too soon to know." and they were talking about whether it could succeed. The Oregonian actually was a little bit pithier on this. It said Oregon's drug decriminalization Measure 110 shows $33 million in grants, but scant evidence of effectiveness. And that's after 2 years.
Somebody's making money.
Someone's making money, and they aren't doing anything.
It's nothing measurable, Kevin.
Yes, it's a rounding error. That's well, and maybe nowadays with the amount of money they want to spend, it is a rounding error. This is this trio of stories kind of says, when you were talking about all the things we could do wrong in this state to cause crime to spin out of control, we are hitting on all cylinders. And the people running the state don't seem to be terribly alarmed. Now, the Baker City Herald said that advocated, which I think we'll hear more of this, that Measure 110 people should get a second chance to decide whether they want to keep it, rather than a Secretary of State who makes excuses for it and parrots the governor's talking points about more time and more money. And this is at the same time, by the way, that schools that have lost 32,000 kids statewide want another $1 billion more to educate people, even though they are failing to do that and rank amongst the worst high school graduation and reading and doing math at grade level in the country. They want another $1 billion.
Yeah, that's a great pitch for more money, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
we're failing. Give us more money.
You can get better service, but you won't pay more. That should be the Oregon public school system motto.
That's right. It only costs a lot more to fail.
You can get better results, but you won't pay more.
Yeah, but I know where they're going to get some of this. I can see it right now. There's something called Senate Joint Resolution 26. It's a bill that will take your kicker tax refund.
Steal, Kevin. It's not take, it's steal.
That's right. Well, I guess I was being too kind. It
Confiscate.
proposes returning surplus revenue, ceasing the requirement of returning surplus revenue to personal income to taxpayers. And it actually will refer this as a vote to the people in the next general election, which I would really like to see. The people have a chance, because they can't do it. They can't pass it unless they get Republican votes. So they have to refer it to the ballot. Right. Plus, I think it would be a constitutional amendment, I believe, when it takes that form.
It would have to be, yeah, because they are currently constitutionally required to give back the money they steal from us,
which will average $900 per Oregonian by a rough estimate, and it varies. Of course, it goes up and down depending on income, but that's $3.7 billion. And the Democrats are absolutely wetting themselves over the opportunity to get a hold of this money and then pair it up with some Biden cash that's coming in from the feds and spend ungodly sums, not solving the problems of our state, as they have all the wrong policies.
Yeah.
It's quite...
Well, they'll line the pockets of their partner NGOs and those who otherwise contract or get grants from the state. I mean, that's pretty much the grift here in Oregon, in exchange for campaign contributions.
It's expensive grift, but they have produced quite the gravy train out of it. Well, I can tell you that a lot of us hear this news and we want to fight back. We want to do something about it. And I'm going to bring on now with us a guest for the balance of our program here. His name is Richard Burke. Let me just invite him on. Richard, welcome to the show here on the Captive Audience tonight, and glad to have you on. We're anxious to hear about the Western Liberty Network event that's coming up here on February 4th, where you're going to talk to people about citizen lobbying and how to be effective at that.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin, for having me on. This is great. I've never been on this blog before, and I love the software. Is my microphone coming through all right?
We can hear you great.
That's great.
Okay, great. Well, anyway, Western Liberty Network, for those who don't know, is a 501c3 organization. And what we are dedicated to is building limited government farm teams of local nonpartisan office holders that are conservative, farm teams of citizen lobbyists, and farm teams of skilled and trained campaign volunteers. The idea is we keep building cadres of these farm teams, keep expanding them, and some of them, they're going to fall off, do a term or two, and then quit. Some of them will be in the same place for 20 years, like I was on the Tualatin Valley Water District for 19 years. And others are going to pop. They're going to have talent, and they're going to have resources, and they're going to rise. If you want to build a culture of limited government, you have to do that at the grassroots. You've got to, as like we say, reweave the fabric of our political culture. And that's what Western Liberty Network does. We do it through training. We do a lot of field training throughout the year, on-site training sessions at the meetings of political organizations. We do almost weekly Zoom meetings on different topics, Saturdays at 1 p.m. We also have, a number of online resources, but we hold an annual conference every year to sort of kick off the year. And this year, our annual conference is going to be on Saturday, February 4th at the Holiday Inn Columbia Riverfront Hotel. We're going to have a reception the night before on the 3rd that's free with hot appetizers and live jazz music. It should be a lot of fun. But anyway, these conferences are not about entertaining people. I think they are entertaining. They're fun to go to, but that's not why we set them up. We set them up to provide actual, useful, practical information to be politically successful in the coming year. And so we're going to have 20 breakout sessions through the course of the day. And they're going to be organized along 4 tracks that people can mix and match as they like. One of the tracks is how to run for and how to win local elected office. There are 5 different courses on different aspects of that. Another track is how to be a more effective citizen lobbyist. That, of course, will be useful down in Salem and up in Olympia. We've got 5 courses on how to do that. Another 5 courses on how to be a school choice activist, how to be effective in fighting for school choice and being effective with your local school boards. And the final 5 courses is on how to manage and execute political campaigns specifically to local nonpartisan office. And we've got tremendous trainers leading these breakout sessions. Senator Kim Thatcher, former state representative Jeff Krupp. We've got former state representative Mike Neerman. We've got Gregory Burnett. He's the owner of Burnett Media Group, and he's going to do 2 training sessions on how to use social media more effectively. We've got people from Education for Freedom. Brandon Merritt is going to talk Friday night. He is a school board activist and also a former candidate for governor. Suzanne Gallagher, Parents' Rights in Education. Jennifer Honey Withy from Washington, Parents' Rights in Education. We've got someone from the Ethics Commission coming, so people can learn how to detect or avoid breaking ethics laws. I'm actually on the Ethics Commission myself, so that's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And also Mark Knudsen, who was CEO of the Tualatin Valley Water District when I was there, and he's going to teach about how board staff governance works in local government. So we've just got all these tremendous toolbox skills. And then in between the breakout sessions, we have 3 assemblies with featured speakers. In the morning, we have Cesar Ybarra, who's Vice President of Policy at the National Freedom Works office. He's going to talk about what's going on in Congress. During the working lunch break, we're going to have Senator Dennis Linthicum talk to us, and Mark Thielman is going to talk to us about what's happening in the school choice movement in Oregon right now and how people can get involved in that. And then our keynote speaker at the afternoon final assembly is none other than Kurt Volker, who was our NATO ambassador under President Trump and also a special presidential envoy to Ukraine. He's going to talk to us about the war, how that's going to affect Congress, what that's costing, and what people can do to make their views known about that. So this is really a fire hose of a day. The lunch we have is fantastic. I have a saying, never rubber chicken at Western Liberty Network. Never. We always have a really good meal. And, this year we've got tri-tip steak. We've got salmon. We've got, warm potato salad. We've got, really good desserts. and it's just going to be dynamite. What else do we have here? Grilled chicken, au gratin potatoes, green beans, cupcakes. It's just fantastic.
So you're making me hungry now, Richard.
I know you're killing us here.
I'm gonna have to drop off right now and go eat.
Yeah, I understand. The whole day is $125, and you can sign up at westernlibertynetwork.org. If you need lodging, we have it available at a discounted group rate that includes a free menu breakfast and again, food, right? And you can get the hotel room at the same place you get the ticket by clicking the red Register Now button on the westernlibertynetwork.org website. And so that's my pitch.
And by the way, there's a shortage of rubber chickens right now, I hear. So it's a good thing you're not relying on rubber chickens.
Yeah, we're not responsible for that shortage. I will tell you this. Since 2013, just under 1,100 people who've received Western Liberty Network training have gotten elected to some local nonpartisan office.
That's impressive.
We know that this works. I mean, some of them are like mosquito control boards and cemetery control boards, but a lot of water board, a lot of school boards, fire and rescue, park and rec, city council, even some county commissioners. And of course, Mike Neerman, it's unfortunate he got kicked out of the legislature, but he actually got his start at our 2011 our conference. And so in Medford. So we are just plowing ahead. There are 3,500 offices up for election in the May elections in Oregon, and somebody's got to win them. And if conservatives don't step up, it's going to be people on the left who win all those offices.
And then they turn into Republican control boards, instead of mosquito control boards, because that's what they'll be doing. They'll be telling us what we can eat and where what we can cook with, and if we're allowed to leave our home or what car we have to drive,
what we can set our thermostat at, and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So this is a great chance to learn. It's a good chance to network. It's a good chance to get, really good skills. But we like to say people will walk away from this thing jazzed. They always do. We say it's where they'll get the information and the inspiration and the skills they need to be effective in both 2023 and 2024.
Great. Well, that is a really great summary. I hope that folks not only sign up to go to this, I've done that, but also that they share it with everyone that they can, because I think there's a lot of people say, I don't know what to do about this. I mean, it's all going to hell in a handbasket. I can't believe what this school board did there or what that city council over there is doing. You can influence. You can learn to influence them. You can learn to run to replace them.
Sure.
You can learn how to be an activist for school choice 24/7, 365. And then you can also learn how to help someone else win by managing and executing a campaign, which, we have a shortage of qualified and trained campaign staff in this state. So it's great that you guys are actually trying to augment that. We need more. People call me and ask me, do you have somebody who could be a campaign manager for this and that? And the pickings are slim. And the good ones often leave Oregon and go off to DC or someplace like that. So we've got to keep producing new ones.
Yep, that's right. It's a conveyor belt, and it's, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. And people think they don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. If you go to this conference, you will know where to start, and you will know what to do. It is not difficult to do. A lot of people think that if they run for a fire and rescue board or a water board, that they need to have expertise in those areas. They don't. They're not looking for technical expertise. If there'd be more requirements on being able to run. They are looking for people who have common sense, who are willing to respond to good information, listen to good information, and make common sense decisions on policy. For technical knowledge, they have staff that can help you with that. When I was elected in 1999 to the Tualatin Valley Water District, I didn't know anything about water. Nothing. I mean, really nothing. But it's okay, because a lot of the folks that started on that board and other boards didn't know anything either. But you learn quickly. You ask questions. And ultimately, it comes down to making good common sense decisions on policy. And if you've got a good head on your shoulders and you're over 18 and you're an American citizen and you're not a felon, you're qualified.
Well, and I think it's interesting too that we've had enough of people who constantly hold power and are sort of self-certified smart people that are act as our betters. These boards, these different entities that you can be elected to, they're supposed to make it so that regular citizens actually govern the country and not people who frankly have plans, as you said, to do you. If you don't do politics, then that's why it's refreshing, actually, that government has to be explained to a new generation of people each time, and then they can actually govern it, as opposed to what we saw, especially during the pandemic, where people were literally using local government, where a lot of things are decided, to almost turn entire swaths of our state into, well, what we named the show after, captive audience. We felt like we were captives being held in a kind of a giant virtual prison until things finally subsided. But we're not ready to change the name of the show yet. So
not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. So again, that's westernliberdynetwork.org.
Correct.
And they can register there, and it is $125. It includes a hot lunch for a full day, 9 a.m. to what, 5, I think?
About 5, yeah.
And then there's a free reception the evening before, and discounted hotel if you want to stay there and during that time.
The reception is going to be great. We've got live jazz music lined up. We found this jazz quartet at La Provence restaurant in Lake Oswego, 4 high school students. Couldn't believe how good they were. And so we're hiring them to do the reception that night. And they're going to be hot appetizers, and there's going to be a no-host bar, and hopefully no one will be dancing on tables, but the tables will be there. And, but this is traditionally a very good party. Most of the speakers will be on hand to meet, shake hands, take pictures, all of that sort of thing. And it's kind of like showing up to summer camp. You see people you haven't seen in a long time who you work with, and you refresh relationships and all of that. So it's a good time.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on, Richard, and helping our listeners and viewers learn more about this event and how they can sign up. We really appreciate it. And thanks for doing this event.
Well, thank you both. God bless.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
So everyone, thank you for watching the captive audience here tonight. David, thanks for being on as well with me. And
my pleasure.
The David Darnell, by the way. One day we will actually delve into this Bank of America guy and see what we can learn. But in the meantime, we'll just assume that you're both the same person. But could be. But so we will be back tomorrow night with another episode of the Captive Audience. Sunny Danforth will be back with Don Anderson, and loads more things happening in the state and across the nation. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll talk tomorrow night on the Captive Audience.